Greg, good to have you on here, sir. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Starting way back to the beginning here with you, do you remember the first kind of instance of being interested in music in general?
Yeah, of course. My dad has been a player his whole life, a drummer. So really, as long as some of my earliest memories of just always having a drum set in the house, it's just always been present and part of our family and lifestyle. Um, yeah, I took to drums and music early on. And it was never anything that was really forced or, it was just something that was obviously supported and encouraged. But my parents never, again, put that on me in a way to where it was like, all right, this is going to be your path. This is what you're going to do. Um, and in some instances, like that's fine and works. I know a lot getting kids interested in music or sports very early on. I'm sure, many Olympic athletes can attest to that. They've been doing it probably their whole life, and maybe the parents or family member was like a coach or something. So it's just always been a part of that. But, music just kind of came naturally to me. Um, and my dad just supported me through that. Both my parents did, but especially my dad with, he would show me things that kind of he learned or um was learning. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. So at a very early age, just kind of playing around on the kit, and then eventually getting more serious as I got older, and being in band programs, middle high school, and then eventually going to music school. And here we are today. And it's like, look, it's just so much stuff. It never stops.
Couple of
um
couple of snares and yeah, and then that's it. And
just
then you're hooked.
Yeah, it's something that I knew, I think, when I started in college in music school. um it kind of making that decision of, all right, like I'm gonna go all in, or maybe this is not my career path. It's something that brings me a lot of joy and pleasure, and I want to make it part of my life, but maybe I want to take my work life and full-time job in a different direction. But it when I was in college, I kind of made that decision and just went all in, went 100%, and said, had that conversation with myself and my teachers of, I'm going to do this. Like, it's not going to be easy. Just with any career, any profession, there's going to be roadblocks and obstacles, but especially with music, it's difficult. It's difficult to do it full time and make a living, and the consistency is sometimes not as present as most people would hope, in comparison to like a 9 to 5. Um, but it's out there. Music is it's the universal language. It's been going on forever. It's not going anywhere. So sometimes you just have to dig a little more, and kind of find those different avenues of how can I support myself or support my family through doing music full time. So it's been interesting navigating that through that in the last couple years, and I feel like I've kind of settled in and found my path with music. So it's crazy, man. It's a wild journey, and it's still going. But here we are.
Do you think that you would have eventually picked up the drums if your father wasn't a drummer himself, or you weren't exposed to it through him?
Ooh, man, I don't think I've ever really been asked that. Um,
It's a first time for everything, Greg, and
yeah.
I'm glad that I was the first one to ask it. We're gonna mark that. We're gonna clip it. That's gonna be huge.
Um, man, I don't know. Uh, maybe, maybe not. I think just being involved in music in some capacity, whether it was the drums or not, um, just having parents that were always listening to music, and just we had that common ground and interest in 90s early 2000s hip hop and alternative rock, and it was like the golden eras of music, and it's like I grew up on that. Um so yeah, that's tough to say. I hmm, I don't know, honestly.
I'm sorry to hit you with a difficult question, but the
No, that's good, that's good.
what kind of music were you getting into, or were you listening to regularly when you started picking up the drums? What kind of caught your ear early on?
Oh boy. um Thinking like, early to mid 90s. So I was born in 92. I'm gonna date myself here. Um, I think when I was at that point to where I was playing more drums and like actively listening and hearing things differently, I to where I was at an age of like I would listen to a CD and specifically like listen to the drums. We're talking obviously Rush, huge influence with Neil Peart, um, Creed. This whole revival of Creed has come back in the last couple of years, and I think it's hilarious. But man, you talk like late 90s, early 2000s, Creed was on top. They were unstoppable. Scott Phillips is an incredible drummer, super underrated. As far as like playing rock, like big influence on my playing. And then the hip hop side, and for those that have checked out some of my videos and content, a lot of my playing is based off of hip hop, and that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. So talking Outcast. Oh god, let's see, not just Outcast. I'm drawing
No,
a
just
blank.
strictly Outcast is
Just
that's what I've
strictly out.
read. That's what I've read. I don't know. I wanted to address that real quick.
You got Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop, all the West Coast guys. Um, Obviously like Biggie, Tupac. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think like that era. Um, then you got like the whole Atlanta scene. You got Usher, Lil Jon, kind of that like crunk era of music. So it was like I knew that hip hop was just going to be a big part of just my musical taste and interest, especially with the focus on beat, rather than some live drums, but electronic, and just it's very rhythm heavy and beat driven. So I think I just gravitated towards that naturally and hearing it a lot, in the car. Um, so yeah, so those are just a couple artists. There's going to be a lot. I was not a kid listening to like classical music and jazz and stuff. It was kind of like what's current. Um, at the time. And yeah, that definitely helped shape me as an artist. And I still enjoy listening to that stuff, and even some of the newer stuff and digging into that. But definitely in those formidable years, you have like 90s, early 2000s rock. Um, there's some one hit wonders, and you just check out the song. It's like it was a great song. And then
Jamiroquai.
it
Yeah.
Jamiroquai's got some bangers.
All right.
Napoleon Dynamite, it's Jamiroquai song. It was that Canned Heat. That iconic scene in that movie.
Okay. All right. My apologies to the cast of Napoleon Dynamite and Jamiroquai. Thanks for making me dig that hole, Greg. Appreciate it. Were you listening to this kind of rap stuff, rap oriented, hip hop oriented genres with your parents as well? Were they kind of digging it as well, or was that kind of your own thing and you guys met in the middle with some other stuff?
No, they were actively listening to that stuff, and um, it's funny, like some things that, like some songs from Eminem. I was at an age to where maybe it wasn't super appropriate. My parents like, yeah, let's not listen to that. So I was like, oh. So, I met a friend's house or whatever, and oh, check out the new Eminem songs. Like, oh, don't tell my parents. But just checking out that sort of stuff. I was like, yeah, it was terrible. It was a bad song. Until my later years, so I was like, oh, okay. So I had a better understanding of why I shouldn't listen to that, or if the lyrics were whatever.
But you were a
Um,
rebel. That's what we're not addressing here.
Oh, I was a good kid. I listened to my parents. Was not if there were movies that I was not supposed to watch, I wouldn't watch them, you know.
Like Napoleon Dynamite, for instance.
No, see, I think I was old enough for that. Napoleon Dynamite's a classic, but something like Goodfellas. Like I was just it was never I don't think it was ever a something to where I asked my parent, "Hey, I really want to watch Goodfellas," and they're like, "No." I knew the boundaries, and until way later, I was like, "Huh, yeah, I've actually never seen that movie, so let's watch it." And for example, Goodfellas is like top 3 movie for me. Love
Oh
it,
yeah?
classic.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
C-
Um,
can I ask you what else? What are the 2 and 1 or 2 and 3 perhaps?
Oof. Put it in top 3. Number 1 all time. Ooh, this is gonna get tricky. Let's go Dumb and Dumber, the original.
Uh-huh.
Pretty sure I know it word for word. I mean, I've seen it several thousand times. Great movie. Um, let's go another comedy. Super Bad for me is just it's just one of those movies that they've talked about having a sequel. Don't do it. Don't tarnish it. Don't ruin it. Just leave it as its own. And then maybe Goodfellas at 3. The
So
only other one,
all 3 comedies. Very nice. Mm. Scorsese known for his comedic.
right, right, right. Um, yeah. So if I had to put it in 3, do those.
Mhm. On that point of making a sequel to stuff, has there been a sequel that actually enhanced the legacy of a film or a TV show? Or has it always been either just kinda middle ground or less than?
I don't know. I feel like, and I talk to my wife about this pretty often. Like, I typically don't like first seasons or first episodes of series. I'm just like, "Ugh, why are we going to that? Like, let's jump halfway through." Like, I'm a big fan of The Office, right? Season 1, episode 1, I get it, but if I'm gonna rewatch The Office, I'm gonna jump to season 4, like where there's character development, and it's like, whatever. Um, the first Shrek I could do without. I know we're really stirring the pot here. Like Shrek 2, great. Shrek 3, anything beyond that. Shrek 1, I'm like, yeah, it lays the foundation, all that, whatever. But I think back to your question, a sequel that was like it just went to that next level. Recent discovery for me, Godfather Part 2.
Ah,
So Godfather 1, it's very important to understand, Don Corleone, all that shit. And then Godfather Part 2 like pops off and it's like, all right, it's getting juicy now.
and
And
then the
it's
3rd one, it really hits its stride
I
historically.
yeah, yeah, but I don't know. I feel like if I was gonna put it in order, it would go 2, 1, 3 for me. Part 2, part 1, part 3.
It's quite interesting. I'm not saying you're wrong, that's just interesting. I need to think about that. Veering back to music just for a minute, and we'll get back on to mobster movies and such.
Okay.
Uh, aside from Neil Peart, which I usually say Pert, but it is Peart.
I did for the longest time, and that yeah, discovered it was pure. So I was like, oh boy, my everything has been a lie.
Aside from Peart, was there any other kind of drummers that were standing out to you early on that kind of helped inform your playing?
Hmm. I don't know if there were like I mean there was a lot, and it's such a loaded question, and even answering it now, like I have a better idea. I think like at a younger age, you're pretty impressionable, and so definitely Neil Peart. There were back when VHSs were a thing, there's a video that my dad and I would watch pretty often. It was the Modern Drummer Festival, which I don't know if it's still going on. Maybe it stopped at some point. It might be. Magazine's still going, whatever. But
And that's
Modern
what's
Drummer,
important. That's
right,
yeah.
right.
Mhm.
The paper. People want paper.
People
Um,
love it printed. Yes. Mhm.
with Modern Drummer, they used to do like, the festival and uh just have drummers from all over sort of do different clinics and performances, and they would have like a compilation that you could get on VHS and eventually DVD and whatever. So there were always like 20, 30 plus drummers on this several day festival that you would just watch, and it would have clips of everybody and different styles, genres, all of that. So a couple drummers from that video, Horatio Hernandez, very notable Latin drummer. Let's see, Virgil Donati. Um, I think Roy Haynes was on there. Tony Royster Jr. when he was like 12. So it was interesting. Like Tony Royster Jr., child prodigy drummer, now plays with Jay Z, Beyonce, one of them. Um,
Possibly
you know,
both. Jury's still
Possibly
out on
both.
that. Yeah, and we'll fix that in post. Yeah.
Edit it and post. Um, Tony Mercer Jr., was a big influence. And, at the time we were around this, he was a couple years older than me. So I was like, uh, yeah, well, when that video came out, hmm, I think I was closer to like maybe 8, 9 years old. He was maybe 12. So like seeing somebody kind of around my age and playing at, such a ridiculously high level. Again, he was a child prodigy. It was like, he studied with Tony Williams and did stuff with Dennis Chambers. And, that was so motivating and in a way like defeating. It's like, oh my gosh, like look at where I am. Like I can barely do this and that, and he's playing all this super advanced stuff. So uh, I've watched that video a lot. With and there's a lot of drummers on there. I'm trying to recall. John Tempesta is a metal drummer. So the cool thing was just seeing all these different genres and kind of picking and choosing like different things that I enjoyed and found fascinating in that video. So it was a really cool resource and tool to just watch and pick apart and um, just have that level of enjoyment, with my dad, like watching it and like, oh, let's rewind this part and what's he doing there? And, is definitely memories that I'll forever be grateful for and very fond of. Just from, the same beat up VHS that served it had its role of exposing me to like different drummers and different styles and stuff. So like that one specifically just had a bunch of drummers, and yeah, it was really cool. So again, Dennis Chambers was another one that um, was on that video, and I saw him just a couple years ago. He came through Jacksonville with the Osnoy trio, and it was incredible, and it took my dad, my younger brother, and we went. And, for my dad to see Dennis Chambers in person and meet him. And I was like, Dennis, I want to introduce you to my dad. Like, he's the one that showed me to you. And, we've been big fans for many years. And he looks at my dad and he goes, this is your dad? He goes, looks like your brother, man. And so my dad was like, oh yeah, Dennis Chambers, thinking that I'm all young, and it's like, all right, let's get out of here.
All right, all right, all right. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, we gotta go.
But we had a
It's
great
enough of
time,
that.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta boost his ego, and then I gotta hear about it on the way home, and it's the whole thing. So yeah,
It was
gotta
great,
gotta cut
great,
it off there.
great moments for
Oh,
sure.
that's awesome.
But yeah, and just I guess hearing different artists and different songs, and trying to maybe kind of dig in and see, this is all before YouTube and any of that. So I feel like some of the resources weren't as accessible. It's just if you were, picking up the CD and looking at the credits and knowing what drummer was in that group at the time, you just kind of go from there. And it's like we were sort of limited on that in a way versus now where you can look up anybody in anything in 5 seconds. So
Right. Do these early influences still have an effect on the way that you make music now?
absolutely. I mean that doesn't go away. It's always interesting and humbling to kind of get back to your roots and revisiting that. And some of these drummers, even if they're older, they mature. They're more seasoned, and they're just better musicians, or they have different things to offer. So, um, there's again going back to the accessibility of the social media platforms and YouTube and just the internet in general, and looking up so many different artists and new emerging artists. I mean, there's a lot out there. Um, so I think again, revisiting and seeing maybe what some of these drummers and musicians are up to, or if they're still active, and recording, playing, doing anything like that. That's always cool to just kind of see and listen, um, and yeah.
It's a good answer. It's a good answer, Greg. I like it. I think we're really on a move here. Now, are you ready for me to halt it? Um, did you start playing with a band early on? Was that like kind of your foray into playing music?
I did. I had friends, met some people in middle school that um played guitar or played drums, and started just kind of hanging out with them, and um you know doing some cover band stuff and dabbling in like original songs and just writing and honestly just jamming, and experimenting with within the realm of like classic rock. So, listening to a lot of Jimi Hendrix, Zeppelin, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And that came from influence of, my friend's dad that was a guitar player, actively played in town and gigged. And so we had that sort of inspiration and support system. And, we had the ability to record. And yeah, so I was in a couple bands here and there, and it was fun. That was sort of my outlet. And in some capacity, I have always been an athlete and did sports, but it's like once I kind of found my people that we shared that common ground and common interest of like, oh, let's go for a record label and let's make it big. You always have that dream as a kid. And um entering Battle of the Bands. Oh, those were good times. And you're looking at the other band in disgust, and it's like, oh God, what are
It's
these?
real
Yeah.
tension. That's what makes it a real battle. I mean, come on. There's gotta be stakes to it. There's a girl that you're trying to impress, and then like
Oh yeah.
you're against the other band. Classic. Yes.
So yeah,
Love it.
just great times and great hangs. And yeah, just playing. Easier said than done. And I spent a lot of time in the garage playing with tracks and stuff, but there's something about like playing music with other people that you really just can't replicate. And people that again have that same vision and drive, and that they're practicing and wanting to be good and sort of pushing each other as far as boundaries and musicality. Like that's how I got better, is just playing a lot, hanging out on weekends or like during the summer. And uh you know it helped us kind of grow up to be professionals even at an early age of making your own business cards and CDs and calling places of like trying to get gigs. And we'll play for free for exposure, which led to paying gigs. In high school, I didn't have a job. Like I wasn't working in retail or food or anything. I was gigging. Like I was making calls. And uh if I knew that something didn't exist, we would try to build that and make it a thing and playing at venues. And that like that was a job in a sense. And at one point, like we were banking, like we were making good money and having fun. um yeah, so that, I'm very thankful for that. Throughout my middle school and especially high school years. um just playing with friends that were, again, that like-mindedness, um to be able to just jump into music and have fun. um which, kind of steered me in the direction of going to music school and beyond. So
And are all the people that you were playing with early on or in those days still playing music in some of the capacity?
I do think so. At least some of them. As you get older, like life gets weird, and for some of us, we've maybe like, they're all my boys. Like if something were to happen, but we've just kind of like maybe lost touch or don't keep in contact as regularly maybe as we should. Um, but just life gets going, and we're all in different parts of the state or country, and um but I'm sure if we got like back together, like it would be like nothing really changed. I mean, the music's always there, the chemistry was always there. um and yeah, and I think for most of the guys that I've played with, like even if they didn't pursue music, I my hope is that they are still making music some part of their life, whether that's just playing for fun, playing for family. It doesn't need to be a full-time thing. Like, and I'm a teacher. I tell my students that too. Like, if you're not declaring music as your major, you don't need to. Um, Play in concert band or play in wind ensemble at your college, or pep band, or even just play in your dorm for fun. Like get with people, again, that like-mindedness that are going to push you and get you excited about it. There's really no sense in playing an instrument for years and years and investing this time and energy, and then you just abandon it. It's like, what? I've never really understood that. Yeah, you get busy and you can make excuses and whatever, and it's like, oh, I sold my instrument. I'll buy another one. Easier said than done. Just spend all of your money. Um,
Yeah, no, and these are essentials. It'll pay off in the long run. It's a wash, if anything.
right.
Yeah.
You're not purchasing your instrument, it's an investment. There we go.
Right, right. Investing in your future and yeah, all that, yeah, everything.
Yeah.
And that's a direct quote from Greg, and you can write that down. Uh, so I'm looking forward to the reunion shows. I know that you guys been talking about that, the old band getting back together, and there'll be more information on that later on. Uh,
Check MySpace for dates and everything like that.
yeah, keep up to date with that. Tom will be sharing it and such, and you'll see it. And this is in Florida, right? I mean, you always lived in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. So that was Ocala, Florida, which is, for all our non-Floridians, like an hour and a half north of Orlando. Everything is based
Gotcha.
around Orlando. Every city that's near Orlando just turns into Orlando, or oh, it's 20 minutes from Disney. Oh, got it. Yeah.
And we're changing that now. You know what? There's other places. That's
There's
not
other
Orlando.
places.
Jacksonville and Miami, of course, and the other one that I'm forgetting that you will now say, Greg,
Tampa,
the Tampa. That's the one, and also the other one that I'm forgetting that you're about to say right now.
Pensacola,
Yep, bingo.
Tallahassee, the
Yes,
the
also that.
capital. Orlando, not a fan. Never lived there. Don't ever want to. Too crowded, too much. You know, I like Jacksonville. I've been here for uh oh god, years. Like 14 years now.
That's that's some years. By the way,
Yeah,
I did not say that. Just know on the record, Greg said that. I did not say anything disparaging about Orlando. Do not yell at me.
it's
That's
okay. I'll
Greg.
own it. I'll own it.
But Greg can say it because he's basically lived there his entire life.
Yeah.
Just
Fight me, Orlando. Do it.
I believe it's this Saturday. The People of Orlando versus Greg. And I think it's going to be held in Miami, which is kind of odd. Very odd venue for that. Um, when you were kind of getting interested in music and playing music with other people, was there a scene, was there like a music scene around you at all? Or
Oh,
were you kind of developing it as you came up?
yeah, for sure. So, in Ocala, Florida, kind of a small town, and it's a little bigger now. Fun fact, I mean, well, Jacksonville is the largest city in the state of Florida as far as square mileage, not population. But if you look at the map of Florida, like Ocala is huge. It's very spread out. It's very, you know, a lot of equestrian stuff going on, horse country, not a lot to do, a lot of land. John Travolta lives there, hangs out. So if you want to hang out at the mall and see John Travolta and play with some horses, Ocala is your place to go.
I'm
Uh,
coming. I'll see you there, please.
Um, but the scene was very, at that time, so we're talking like 2004 to 2010. Hardcore. Uh, so like the scene was scene, like scene music. So hardcore, screamo, um, and I mean the most notable band that has really ever come out of Ocala, especially around that time, was A Day to Remember. Um, and there's some other great bands. I'm thinking Seventh Star was another big one, but really the bigger one was A Day to Remember. All local guys, went to you uh, just all the high schools in Ocala, and eventually branched out, and arguably one of the biggest and most successful pop punk bands of all time. So they would do hometown shows, a couple of their music videos. They've filmed in Ocala, which is always cool. So it's a big deal whenever they come back or whenever they were like really getting big. Um, so I think a lot of people followed suit with that, and just again with the hardcore and punk scene, like it was thriving in Ocala. There were a couple venues that would just get packed, and everybody stealing their mom's jeans and their dirty Vans and wearing all the cool shirts, and their flat ironed hair, which I never partook in. I always had kind of shorter hair.
I like how
But
that's
yeah,
it. What you refute, not the pants thing and not the Vans thing either. And yeah, no,
no, the
natural hair.
Vans, the tight jeans. I mean, was kind of a staple, I guess. Looking back, and it's like, oh boy, what were we doing? What a time to be alive. But
Nothing
that
wrong
that
with Vans, by the way. Love
no,
Vans.
no, still love Vans.
We
That's
love
not going away.
Vans. We support Vans. And Vans, if you're looking to support us, I mean, we need some shoes as well. Anyways,
But that was really the scene. So I wasn't necessarily playing that music. The guys that I was in bands with, and we were more interested in covers. So Rage Against the Machine was another huge influence of mine. Let's step it back to 20 minutes ago. Brad Wilk, incredible drummer, but big Rage Against the Machine fan. Love his playing, love his style. So we kind of just, I think that was really our thing of, we acknowledged what the scene was. It was definitely more in the rock and hardcore stuff, but that wasn't really our jam. Um, we were learning covers and playing stuff that we all collectively enjoyed. And that's how we were getting gigs. It's like, oh, check out our demo. It's like, no, no, we're a cover band, basically. We can kind of play anywhere. And some of this music is generational. Like our parents and parents' friends were like digging. It's like, look at these kids. They're playing these songs that like we love, and they're rocking out. Like, so I think we kind of found our lane with that, of essentially being a cover band and sometimes doing originals. And so, which allowed us to kind of stick out in the scene. A lot of bands were just focusing on trying to follow A Day to Remember, and make it, and oh, we got a record contract, whatever. People don't even do that anymore. It's like, oh, he popped off on Instagram, great, now they're famous. um
what was the first concert that you attended? Do you recall the very first one?
I want to say, and it was pretty late. I think I was in middle school. My first concert. I might have been to some, but like the first one that I like remember and was excited about going to was Rush in Tampa, of all places.
Did that have an impact on you,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mr.
Seeing
Peart?
Mr. Peart, seeing him live, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, seeing those guys in person was just like, whoa. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'll remember that forever. And before they stopped touring and before Neil passed away, I got to see them a total of 2 or 3 times. Um, and man, for being a three-piece band, and those guys are older, like they can go toe to toe against anybody. Like they rock out, and it's like the quality of their music and the musicianship between the three of them, listening to guys that have played together for a long time that are still with it and still sharp. um it's just awesome. There's a lot of bands out there today that maybe back in their heyday they were great, and they're just maybe still trying when they should just not gonna name any
No, we're
bands.
gonna name names on the Patreon, so join us there. And again, we're gonna be discussing who doesn't have it anymore, really. So yeah, join us there. Uh,
Because I'll name the names. I'll list them. That is a hot take.
full
Uh,
list will be posted on Patreon, so go join us there. I did not realize that Rush was a three piece. I always thought it was like a four piece.
Three
But
piece. Yeah.
all right, three. Wow. I mean that really goes to show you how much just power was behind it. Yeah. Mm. Very well, Greg. Very well. All right. When did you start competing in kind of drum competitions? When did that sort of enter your life?
Um, that was like in early years of college. Um, so the most notable drum competition was the Guitar Center Drum Off, which no longer exists. Rest in peace.
The
Uh,
Guitar Center drum off, just to let that sink in for one moment.
Yeah, what a name. What a way to be confusing and to confuse the masses.
The
Yeah, so
Guitar Center drum off. Okay. Yeah. Right. Just wrapping my head
and
around
then the
that.
drum center guitar off, like that has a nice ring to it.
That oddly kind of sounds better in hindsight.
Has a little more flow to it.
It
Yeah,
it it
so
does. It does.
Guitar Center, I feel like they fall well, most like Sam Ash just closed down. That's scary and kind of sad. Like Sam Ash is done as far as music retailers. Everything's online. But Guitar Center, at one point kind of struggling as most malls in America are. So, Guitar Center hosted the country's largest drum off. It was very organized, very big, and the winners were like the next guy or the next big emerging drummer. And it was open to basically everyone to enter. So you were getting, a lot of interest, a lot of talent just being poured into this competition. So I started that, I knew about it pretty early on, and I would see winners and the grand finals, and it was always exciting to watch, like, oh, who's gonna win this year? And it was a thing. I want to say like early 2000s. When did YouTube come out? 2005?
Six, I believe.
6? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think maybe the first year of the drum off, don't quote me on that, is around that time. I want to say 2006, 2007.
So that's not a direct quote. It's adjacent. Yep.
Yeah, Chat GPT is steering me wrong on this. So early 2000s, the drum off was going, and I always knew it was something. And at one point they, I think, changed the age requirement. You had to be like 18 to enter, because they were getting like 12-year-old kids like just playing, and it's like, all right, Jimmy, get off the stage. I think it turned into something that it was like not great. Um, so they sort of refined it. So I knew that I had to wait till I was a little older. And then I started entering, local store here in Jacksonville, and yeah, it just being growing up as an athlete, and I'm a very competitive person. Like there was something about that I enjoyed, the nature of competition, but it, there was a weird mix of like, something that I'm wanting to do as a profession, something I love, and now I'm competing in it. It's like, there were a lot of conflicting ideas with that. And I struggled with that a lot, but it was fun. And it taught me a lot about building a solo and developing a solo as a drummer. Um, Especially going through music school, I was like trying to be mindful of that, and not just getting up there and playing whatever the hell I wanted. Like I wanted it to sound legit, and watching past winners and picking up things that they were doing that worked well. Um, so I definitely think I was at the right age to take it serious and do it, for me, and try to make it, pretty far, knowing that that would have been a pretty significant launching point in my musical career. Like 'cause everybody who's a drummer knows this year's winner or past winners of the drum off. It was big. And it came with all the perks of prizes, endorsements, cash prize, and then you're pretty much set up, or you could be set up to, be a recording artist or get on tour with this next person. So like I was hungry for that, and I took it pretty serious. And at one point, I think it was like the second or third year that I entered, I got pretty far. I got to like top 30 in the country, and I was close. I was really close to making it to the grand finals in California, which is I think top three or top five. Um, and with any competition, it's with stuff like that, when there's judging involved and rubrics and criteria, it can become subjective. Like it's all up to the judges and what they're feeling and how you're playing that day. And you could do all the right things and just play spectacularly, and it may just not happen that day or right in that time. Um, so it taught me a lot about myself, and not to be too hard, and you know I didn't want it to be defeating in a way of like, oh well, I didn't make it, like I just suck, like I'm doing something wrong. um at some point I didn't need that validation of like getting to that next point. Like this is not the end for me. Like I know that I'm making an impact. I'm doing, A, B, and C. um so it was fun, while it lasted. Got some cool prizes, got to travel for it. And there's something about the competitive uh
Component or
atmosphere.
edge, yeah.
Yeah, the energy that like, you get nervous and excited, but I was like, just getting primal. uh it goes back to the you're at a local show, or battle of the bands, and you're just watching your opponent and be like, idiot.
Right,
No,
right, 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 arms crossed, yeah, just given the business, mhm.
it never goes away.
No, no, it's
um
still that's still in there, yeah.
So yeah, it was cool, and again, I learned a lot, and yeah, it was fun while it lasted. But I look back on it, and it's like there were definitely components to that were just ridiculous.
And
And
we
you could,
and again, we will be discussing those components over on the Patreon. Did that kind of inspire you to push it further during those competitions?
yeah, I definitely think so in some aspect. I mean, just knowing that in that competition specifically, like if you go all the way and if you win, like this could be big. And I was at the time like nearing the end of my time at music school. Um, so I was, I think I just acknowledged like what could be on the line, but knowing that this was not the end all be all, right? Like I was not at a point where if I don't win this competition, like I can't provide for myself or my career's over. Like it was a win-win for me. Like if I get far and great, cool. We'll see where it takes me. If I lose, great. Like no harm, no foul. Like I haven't, you know, I've invested time and energy into this. But it's all a learning process, you know.
And then
And I,
you get to rage against the machine, which you love doing, which is nice.
of course. Um, yeah, so I definitely think it motivated me in a way to just not even the competition itself, like get to that next level, but when it's all said and done, like get to that next level, whatever that means, in school and then outside of your time in college and getting into the real world. Um, yeah, so it definitely motivated me and put me in a position to see it from a different lens.
Mhm. What motivates or inspires you to make music now?
Um, I mean, hmm. I think the creating music, because I'm not like a big music composition guy. Like I've dabbled in it a little bit. But as far as like writing stuff, I do every so often, and it's either out of necessity if I have to with rewriting parts in band for my students, um, or rearranging. Um, but like as far as performances and content, well, let's start with content. The videos that I put out on Instagram, that's for my own personal gain and fun. Sometimes I'll do, hip hop covers or percussion arrangements of that, or sometimes I'll just do things that maybe I've heard in another song, or I get inspired by things that I'm hearing, or seeing other people do, and just kind of use that as a launching point of like, I'm not trying to replicate that exactly, but let's start with that and see where it takes me. Um, and the performance side, like I love playing. I love playing drum set, gigging out. I play a lot, and I stay active as an educator and a performer. There's a weird sort of stigma with music educators that they're in education because they can't play their instrument well. There's a weird stigma with that, and um, I definitely think it's important for me, just as a musician, to have that balance of being active as a performer, and that's where I started, and I eventually found my path into teaching. So just finding that balance, and I play out a lot in I do a lot of wedding band stuff, musical theater, just playing kind of random gigs here and there. Um, so I think what motivates me playing wise is just knowing that that brings me a lot of fulfillment and joy. Um, Even if it's maybe like stressful, like I'm at that point where I can kind of pick and choose what I want and don't want to play, which is nice. Some people, with music, they might have to take gigs that they don't necessarily want to, or play a genre of music that they're not very fond of, and that's where we start to disconnect from what we're doing. Um, so, and I think some of it is definitely financially driven. Yeah, I could go out and play for fun, and sometimes I do. But at the end of the day, I've invested a lot of time and energy and effort into what I do, and I know my self value and self worth. Um, so, if I can make some good bread doing it and have fun, that's it for me. I'm not looking to rob people or, you know, be narcissistic in a way, or, I always want to leave my ego out the door. And it's like I know what I offer, and I'm gonna be super prepared and sound great and do the best that I can for whatever group I'm playing with. And I genuinely want everybody to have a great experience, and I want to have a great experience. So yes, money is important with that as a musician, and you should never, sell yourself short with that. But it certainly shouldn't be all about that, because, at times where you do make it all financially driven, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you know. So I think that just having that mix and balance of a little bit of everything, that just motivates me. And um, with that, just being involved in different things, that I'm not strictly just performing. A lot of my day is taken up by teaching, and finding the motivation to get better with that is just, I mean, because I'm teaching all woodwinds, brass, percussion, all of that. So it definitely is always a learning curve, and you're working with students every day, and they're constantly learning and getting better and asking questions. So I think that's enough motivation for itself, is just, seeing the students want to get better and helping them along the way, um, while keeping myself and holding myself accountable. Like I need to still work on my reading and do all this stuff, and not just put it on them. Like I want to lead by example.
Is it always passion first with any sort of these different avenues that you're taking with music? Is that always where it's stemming from? It's I that I want to do this, and then whatever comes from it comes from it.
I definitely think that's the right mindset and approach to have. Like if your heart's in it and you're just doing it for all the right reasons, um, at that point you're not at the gig thinking about, oh, how much money am I making right now, or I have an hour left. All right, it we're able to look past that, right? And I think that by me, fueling my musical career through passion and just enjoyment, like it just makes the experience better, that I don't have to worry about those things. I know they'll all fall into place. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get paid for the gig and do all this, do all that, and network and make those connections. But if you're in it 100% and you do a great job, and you're just a nice, genuine human being, like it doesn't take much. People ask me that a lot with getting gigs, and how do I get more gigs, and how do I connect with people? And it's like, well, be a good person. Like that's a good starting point. If you have your ego just, you know, off the charts, it's not going to go well. There's too many great musicians out there to where people are going to be like, yeah, bye. We'll find somebody else that's maybe not as good as you, but they're fun to work with, and they're a good hang. They're a good person. So I've
The
definitely
hang
found
is
that
so important.
the hang is
That
really important, man. It really is. It makes all the difference. Like I don't consider myself like this upper echelon player that I'm just like spectacular all the time. Like I make a lot of mistakes, and I do what I can, and I practice, and I try to sound as great as I can and prepared. But I know that I can talk to people and connect with them and get to know them, and without being overbearing. I know when to be introverted and kind of hermity, and like not over. It's like, whoa, all right, like let's meet in the middle and just chill, be cool, be cool. Um, and people take note of that. It's not something that needs to be expressed of like, you know what, man, you're a great person. It's like some people say that, but people just acknowledge that. Like talent acknowledges talent. Good people acknowledge good people. It's like, all right, you're a good hang. Like, I want to work with you more. Like, we can work on things together. Everybody's always progressing. I don't think there's anybody that has reached that point. It's like, yep, I can't get any better. So that's when it goes way beyond, just like your playing ability as a musician and gigging. You got to be a good person, be prepared, be on time, check all the boxes.
those boxes will be listed at the Patreon, of course.
Next to the boxes of bands that are washed up and shouldn't be on the road anymore.
Look, it's gonna be a good read. Just join us over there, all right? What do you get from creating music? What do you receive from creating it?
Really, I think of it's just this sense of fulfillment and knowing that this has always been a part of my life and this is my life's work and this is who I am and what I do. Um, I think just being able to play music, teach, share it, enjoy it, and that's who I am and that's my living. I think that's pretty incredible. Like not everybody can say that, and I'm super grateful for that. Um, but it brings me a lot of joy. It just really does. I mean, it brings me a lot of heartache for sure. There are times where I get really dark and down on myself. I'm like, you idiot, like what are you doing? But I feel like I'm having less of those moments. That was really in music school where you're figuring stuff out and there's this pressure to just like, all right, you got a couple years left and then you're out in the world. Like, I hope you can make it. As you're practicing in the practice room for like 6 hours on the same thing. And it's like, it's defeating. But, um, those moments were pivotal and super important. And it helped shape me who I am today. And, the success that I've had of just being a full-time working musician. So, yeah, I think of anything, it's just this sense of again joy, and it's very full circle. It's like nobody told me I was going to be a musician or anything, and um, it's a good feeling knowing that you put in a lot of that time and effort, and it does pay off, or it can pay off for sure. So um, it's a good feeling just mentally. Um, Knowing that if you persevere and stick with it, it's not always going to be an easy road, but those moments where it does pay off, and you're able to connect with people and have some really cool opportunities as a musician, um, and finding that balance, like that's it, man. Like it's I don't know. It keeps me motivated and humble, and just knowing that I'm on the right path. Like it is a sense of gratification and validation of all right, like I'm doing all the right things in this. Um, but it just yeah, it helps me be a better person. And sharing that with my students or people that I'm working with, and inspiring them to hopefully do the same. And even if they don't, finding the things and uh, things that have worked well, and having certain levels of success, like how they can implement that into whatever they're doing next. It's all kind of the same thing. Music, yes, is its own thing, but you're still doing a lot of the things that most people do in other careers, or need to do to be a successful person.
It's a great answer, Greg.
Thank you.
But it boils down to money. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was a genuine answer. I really do appreciate it.
Of
Um, Greg, thank you so much for coming on here. I really, really appreciate it.
course, of course.
Thank you so much. Before I let you go, I got some promo to do here. So the people could find your arrangements, if you will. Is that an apt term? What would be the term that you would use?
I feel like a cover is kind of like a loose term. Like it is an arrangement. Yeah, let's go with that.
Just genuine good shit. Let's just say that.
There we go.
Over on your Instagram, is that the best place that people could stay up to date with, like, kind of where your mind is at, where you're raging
Absolutely.
against the machine for the money?
IG baby. Yeah, Instagram for sure. It's just Greg.Hersey. Um, Facebook, no. TikTok, tried it. I could do without it.
MySpace
St-
though, coming back with a bang.
Coming back. Got with my
Uh,
boy Tom, and we're taking it.
oh, I know that guy too. It's crazy.
He was in your top eight, right? Like,
Of course. And a lot of people know that guy, which is just fucking crazy. I don't know who he's really hanging. I mean, I don't see him that often, but then it's like,
yeah.
yo, how do you know
Where
this other
where's
guy?
where's Tom now? Is he hanging out with Zuckerberg? Like, what's
I
going
saw
on?
him recently. He was wasted. Whatever. It
Tom,
stopped,
Tom. He's like putting his hand up.
You know how Tom gets. You also offer virtual lessons to people, right? That's also something that you do on the side sometimes.
Yeah, it's again, I do value, my time and other people's time, and I'm a new parent, so like navigating through that and
By
just
the
kind
way,
of
congratulations.
thank you, thank you. Um, just kind of trying to balance everything. So, yeah, always open to people that are motivated and inspired and wanting to, take their playing to the next level. I never want to turn people down for that. So, always open to trying to make it work. And I do a lot of just private lessons in person locally, but always open to some Zoom lessons and just talking and chatting with people for sure.
Rad. And if people were interested in looking into that sort of the virtual lessons, where would be the best place that people could contact you about that?
Just send me a message on Instagram, and I'll sift through all the spam and scam. Uh, Pay us $500 for 1,000 followers. Like, okay, all right.
I'm telling it's a good deal. That's why I sent it
It's a
to
good
you.
deal.
Do you know how much of a hit I'm taking to offer you that? Um, yeah, and is there anything else that we got to promote before we cut you loose here, Greg?
I think just check the Instagram for updates. I'm not really one to be like, here's what I'm doing this month. It's like if I'm feeling like it's something that people need to hear and people need to see and want to check out, I'll share it. Um,
Like John Travolta at the mall, something
like John
cool like
Travolta at the
that.
mall, 3 a.m. John Travolta sighting. Hurry up and get here. He's riding a horse in the mall. That is a very Ocala thing to do. Um,
He's getting a hat for his horse at the lids. Come quick.
at 3 a.m. Um,
That's the prime. That's by the way, lids has some crazy hours. I don't know. I don't think that's public knowledge, but yeah, pretty
we'll get
wild.
it. We'll get into the actual hours on the Patreon.
We're gonna
More to
dive
come.
right on it in that.
No, I mean, upcoming like public things, I always try to share. So just keep track of that. A lot of the gigs that I do are unfortunately private. So if you're into wedding crashing, don't say that you know me. Just kind of maybe like give me the eye, the look, and I'll be like, oh boy, I don't know who you are, but you showed up at the wedding, and you're here to see me play. So,
And we're
um,
not inviting that, but if you do it, I mean, that's pretty fucking cool.
wedding schedule on the Patreon. Don't
I didn't
say.
want to say it. I didn't want to say it, but you know where to fucking find it. Greg, you're the man. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Um,
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. And I'm gonna stop recording this and I'll talk to you in a minute, okay?
All right. Sounds good.